What's going on, everybody? Back once again, and I guess in this video, I was like, I know it done been pretty much probably ran through, discussed through odds and ends, and it probably ain't gonna stop being discussing for a while until everything is settled. But obviously, I was like, as what the title will say is, I'm over here talking about the John Morant situation, and um been seeing obviously the memes. Um and I've been like hearing like, everybody from, Reddick or even Jackson or, the TNT crew, Jay Williams. I'm like, I'm just trying to think of like just like people who people will listen to or whatever. Like that I heard Wayne talk about it. I was like, and there's been various other people here too, like very and whatnot, and like I feel like everybody's trying to come at it with different aspects and angles in a way that I think is sort of like, while it's talking about the subject, it to me is not talking about the subject. It's talking about everybody else's reasoning more than anything than just the situation at hand. From where it's like, oh, people posting pictures of like the governor or whatever doing a picture with his family and guns. And it's like, okay, and well, that shit ain't got nothing to do with this. Or it's actually talking about Chris Kaman used to show up with guns back in like 12 years ago. I'm like, okay, and what does that got to do with anything? First of all, that was like a decade ago, where like gun situation. I was like those situations wasn't the same as what they are now. Um, Also too, I was like social media ain't what it is now, and also too the school. I was like the school events and like the stuff at the club and and just random like like stuff at concerts and all this other stuff. Like they're up higher than what they used to be back then. And if they're not, they're much more prevalent in our faces of stuff. Whether it's like just ranging from stuff people getting in the wrong cars or people going to the wrong houses. Where I just like it's like basically so I'm like this is much more heightened sensitivity around this than it was back in the day for that reason. Um, I was like people leaning on the fact of like, some like mental health stuff or some stuff that he's going on with, and I'm like, I don't see I to me that I was like to me I since I don't really like the conversation really framed around like mental health, just because I feel like we could use it for whatever, that sometimes I'm like that takes away sometimes from the point, and also it's not, I don't feel like it's as helpful when we're actually talking about things that can deal with like stuff where I'm like mental health. Like, yes, it could be a part of it, it could be a contributing factor, but to me, I'm like, to me, it's not necessarily the same thing as as like this, as to what his incident is in this situation. But also a little bit is that I was like, I also feel like it is overblown in the sense of because I was like, it to me it's just it's really just stupid. It's stupid. It's like the first, like I was like, and I was like, I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to necessarily make like a video on that because it hit so many different things all at once, that you're hitting so many different topics of what people all got to say on it. I even did like a video before, and then I was like, no, I want to hear what other people got to say. I want to get some of my thoughts more out or whatever, and see and hear people different scenarios, because I was like, then I was like, cause I've heard like people talk, and I was like, they're gonna always talk about like the music and stuff, and the thing is that I feel like the music conversation is not how they approach the conversation, because obviously people don't want to hear about the music conversation because they're just like, well, everybody listening to music doesn't mean everybody's tripping like this. Also too, just because you listen to music don't mean you're gonna act like this. um And I'm in the camp. I was like, yeah, you can't blame the music for all this stuff or whatever. Because I was like, we all sort of listen to all this music and we don't do all the things here. But I'm also going to act like too that I'm like, you can't be out here also talking about how people get influenced from things they see on TV, social media, and all this other stuff from what the things they listen to and watch on TV and videos, and then also say that can't contribute, that doesn't happen to it. I will say that I think that for people that actually, because I was like, they also talked about too of like, I've heard people talking about when you actually like, they're talking about like Giant really lived that life, he ain't in that life, versus like people who are about that life and all this other stuff. And I was like in the way that I seen it is like I was like pretty much I'm like, you telling people you got a gun is very silly to me, because I'm like, a lot of people are sort of strapped up. I was like, not just from like it being like the second commandment and all this other stuff of like, but I'm like, most people, I was like, a lot of people have guns, and guess what? You don't know who any of them are. Why? Because just in case you got to use it, you don't want nobody else to know. And that's sort of my thing too. That I'm like, I was like, the person that got one, I was like, they gonna let you know, and it probably gonna be used if they gotta let you know. Um, so in a lot of these situations, it seems like he's really just it's really like just showing off. It's really and I was like, and it's really like one of them things where it just seems like it's like showing that you about it, but for clout status, and that's odd and that's weird to me. But at the same time, I was like, to me, and that's where it sort of goes to like the music and all the other stuff or whatever like that. I'm like, but the new generation that's putting stuff always on social media or whatever like that. And yes, I'm saying like the new generation, the young kids, because I was like, they're born in it way more than like I was. Like I was around, like I'm around all this stuff or whatever like that. But I'm like, when that's just the only thing I was like a lot of people where it's like putting the money all up through your arm or whatever. Then I'm like, that's just letting everybody know you got that. That's stupid. To me, that's stupid. Or whatever. Showing your collection of them, like, that's stupid. Because now you just letting everybody know what you got. So that means if I know I got to go and that person know they got to go and do something, then they know what they got to go do against who. Instead of just being like called off by surprise. I was like, I don't know. It's just like, I just trying to figure out, because I'm like, man, I'm like, you over here, you got like, you got 200 million, you over here and all these commercials and whatnot. And I'm just like, and to me, I'm like, listen, I'm like, they'll let you get away with a lot of stuff, to be honest, like being an athlete and stuff like that, being famous. That I'm like, this is sort of the avenue you pick, but I feel like the avenue you pick is like the one thing that everybody sort of right now is like, nah, that's not what you gonna do in this situation. I was like I heard, like I was like, well, listen to the guys on the Raw Room, and they made a good point. That's like, I was like, and I was like thought about this too, but the other point they made is like, all right, cool, you're basically a part of this $1 billion company. Guess what? That means you gotta operate by their rules, and you got a lot of leeway to do a lot of stuff that you sort of want to do. You go wild out in a lot of way. Nobody was really tripping over you being at the club. Nobody cared about that. You know what I mean? People probably doing that right now. So nobody even tripping over that. To me, even the thing with like, he holding a little bitty thing in his hand, I was like, to me, I didn't even trip over that. I was like looking at it, I'm like, man, that's like some stupid young kid stuff to do. That's how I looked at it. And even in the car, I was like, to me, that was like another young person thing to do, where you just over here just like posing up, like doing like y'all hype, y'all geeked, and you over here. But the thing is that sort of is like, you just got in trouble for this. And to me, that's the part where it's like, that's the part where I'm like, you sort of really in trouble, because you just got talked to about this. I was like, think about it. If you're a kid, just like you just talked to them about something and they went and did it, guess what? That makes them a lot more likely to get in trouble than the first time. The first time you might be able to give them a warning and be like, don't do this dumb shit again. But the second time you do it, then you're like, okay, now we actually sort of got a problem, because you did this after I tried to be like sympathetic and compromise with you or whatever, and try to have you a little bit leeway and like talk about it, like doing the right thing in this situation. You still go out here and do this, like, all right, cool. Now we're going to have a little bit of a punishment, or there's going to be more backlash to this or whatever. But my thing is that I was like, this is the thing that I was like, of everybody trying to point out of like the whole, like, this is the thing with like the whole like thing of like, oh, things being equal. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I can't go into my job and just have my gun out. Neither. No matter if I got a right to carry or nothing like that, I can't do that at the job. And guess what? The NBA basically this it's like you are representing the company. I was like, if I go out and I have my job emblem on me or my job and I decide to just deck somebody in the face, guess what? That's gonna look bad on the company, which means they might fire me, even though I didn't do it on the grounds. I was like, I didn't necessarily, I was like, it wasn't somebody that worked there and nothing like that. Nah, but I was wearing the whole thing on them that said something. Guess what? Nah, that's just me now. I was like, I can't do nothing about it. I was like, they're going to fire me. And that's the same thing here. And like, I'm like, I was like, there's a certain level of equal, and then there's a certain level of, yeah, but we all playing our roles in all these different things. I was like, that dude that got his whole family with all strapped up and stuff like that. Guess what? That means that he probably is either I was like, got some connection with the NRA, or that's the people he need for him to get voted back in. Guess what? That's the game you play. Just like everybody else got targeted groups that they gotta play favorites with in order to get back in the game or whatever like that. Um, Also, too, like I said, like the whole thing about like if other people had stuff or whatever like that. First of all, if you was at your home and you just had a house, that's totally different. Also, like if you had a hunting rifle and stuff like that, that's different than you just having just a regular gun or whatever. Um, but to me, it's just dumb, and I don't. And I was like, I don't get it. I was like, even if you about that life, then even then, I was like, I feel like you'd be like, I even feel like you check yourself on that. But the fact that if you're definitely not about this, then I definitely don't get jeopardizing your chance of having this money and being like the face or something for this. Like, to me, I was like, I guess also too, I'm like, if you gonna go out, go out, do something to me that's gonna be like, damn, that was crazy. But I was like, that was crazy. Not like not for him to act like go somewhere with that, but I mean, but I was like, I don't know. I was like, he set a whole bunch of fireworks off at his house burned down. I don't know, just something ridiculous, something crazy. I was like, not something like that, but yeah, I just feel like a lot of people are talking about this point, and it's being handled at like a way of outrage in a way that I feel like is too over the top, but also the way that like it needs to be talked about is missing the whole point at the same time. And it feels like everybody just sort of picking their agenda that they want to use John Morant on in this situation that doesn't have anything to do with it, anything. Like I get we're all trying to grasp and figure out ways and stuff like that, like but there's sometimes I'll just also like see, because I was like, because everybody's really just afraid about the money, and there's some people that might be afraid of like what his mental situation is, and to me, I'm like, it also seemed like it's just a young dude out here wilding and being dumb. Like I was listening to like Wayne or whatever, and he was talking about like he was asking like some of the young dudes he was around, and the young dudes didn't really have an answer really for anything. And then he said that if he was young, he'd probably be doing the same thing. And I'm in my head, I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, if you hanging out with your homies, and your homies are like doing somewhat of this here and this there, you're probably just going to be doing the same thing. Like I was like we've all just been like doing stupid stuff to where I'm like, yeah, when you're sort of young like that, like I do get it. Now, granted, nobody's ever been in that situation without a amount of money and all the other stuff hinging on the type of things. And also, too, like I said, he already been taught too. And to me, yeah, yeah. So I was like, that's not even that. I was like, and it's not even giving any excuse. It just really was like I don't know the reason behind it, but I think everybody else that's talking about it is also just talking about it. Cause and sometimes I always wonder, like, when we talk about things, who's this for? Just because I always feel like the thing is that who it for is mattering, because a lot of the stuff that you're saying it to, those people already get it. So therefore, the people that you're trying to talk to aren't listening in the first place. And that's sort of what Lil Wayne said that too. That he's like the stuff that we're all of everybody else talk about, me, all these other people over here talking about, that's not really getting to him. Yeah, he might get some of it just because, you be on your phone and stuff like that. But I was like, but your crew might be like, they tripping, don't pay attention to duty on, to the point where you're like, you're just going on about your own thing until you have to meet back once again for your actual punishment. Then that's the only time it might actually be something. Other than that, and also too, the whole thing with, like they say, like your friends and all the other stuff. One, I'm glad some people are actually sort of defending the homeboy, because I was like, as soon as he seen Ja have it out, he hurried up and moved his phone. And to me, that's because, one, he ain't know he was about to do something crazy like that. Even though he probably knew he had it on him, it was easy right there. But he didn't probably think that he'd pull it out just because he's like, then we just get in trouble for all this. Ain't this already a situation? And so I was like, you can't say it on a friend. I'm like, it's funny, he might actually be the friend that everybody, that it might be a problem. But because I'm like, this isn't just about this incident, and I know everybody gonna make it about, like, this is the second time with this whole thing having the strap on and all this other stuff. But he's also had so many other instances that have came to light in these recent months since that. I was like, from a little bit around that first instance that made some other things ready to go, that have sort of made his image a little bit more different, from the being up to 17-year-old allegedly, because of some incidents, to the whole thing where his mom had to call him to go handle something, I think like at a Foot Locker or something like that, where I'm like, which I was like, I sort of like, I was like, the incident at his house with the whole 17-year-old, that's a little bit differently. But the whole thing with calling the mom, I was like, his mom calling up, I sort of get that, just because you might think like, oh, my son might have some power here or whatever like that. Unless you rolling deep and y'all all ready to go, like how these videos show he ready to go. That's a little different of a ball game. But anyway, I've spoke longer on it than I probably feel like it, especially for something that probably not going to get heard of and probably not even going to matter. But it was just my thoughts, just because I think everybody else is partially tripping and just spouting stuff they want in order to make this a thing that it has to be to prove your narrative in this situation more than his situation. And I think that is not the way to deal with any of this stuff, is to make it about you when it's about his situation. And you're not really, only a few people I've heard that I was like, I got where they were coming from to help, where it was like something to help John more than it is to help whatever you're pushing. But anyway, if you liked anything I had to say here, thanks, I appreciate it. Other than that, peace, I'm out.